My name is Judy Takis, and I paint people. That is my number one thing that I've liked to do basically since the dawn of time. I have painted people, and people and their faces and their hands and their expressions and their feelings and their whole being is what interests me to paint. And this one right here is called Paul is the Best Man, and I know that when I put a link on my Facebook, Paul's going to be the first one to look at it and press the like. Paul was the best man in our wedding 20 years ago, and he's a fun character, and they came to visit us. They live in Massachusetts, and they came to visit us a few months ago, and they stayed an extra day. And when people stay an extra day, I make them pose for me. And so Paul posed for me, and he was making faces, having fun with it, and making faces and making faces more. And so not only did I paint one of him, I painted three because he had so many different expressions. And this piece actually is a little bit important because it kind of started me wanting to do more expressions. I've been a painter of portraits for forever, and when you have a live model pose for you or a live commissioned person pose for you, usually they're very still. They go, and sometimes they fall asleep. And I think it's more dynamic and interesting to have somebody with some kind of expression, like where they're in progress, instead of just sitting there and getting drained and getting drained. And so I've done some other ones now with people in different expressions. I have one of myself doing different, like, crazy things, because I can pose myself doing whatever I want. So that's this piece right here, and I do them oversized because one of my problems as I have approached the 40s and have continued on, and now I'm approaching the 50s, is that I need reading glasses now, and I keep needing stronger and stronger reading glasses, and I find that I just can't see. And so I thought, why not just paint bigger? And if you paint bigger, it's also more dramatic. For me, it's more fun because I can be more painterly with doing the things that I like, instead of having to always worry that this little tiny part is going to get lost because it's so tiny and I have to keep using tinier and tinier brushes in order to get all the detail that I want to get in there. So that's why I paint bigger. And maybe someday I'll paint even bigger and even bigger than that. But and that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the painting over here, the Rasta Man.
Okay, this one is called Rasta Man Selling Me a Bracelet on the Road to Hana. And this past spring break, I went with my family, 3 kids and my husband. We went to Hawaii, and we took the drive on the road to Hana, which is this very windy, twisty edge of the rocky mountains and cliffs where you take a wrong turn and you could go plummeting to your death over the side of the road. So it's a long, like, it takes about 3 or 4 hours to do thoroughly, and you stop at different stops and you look out at different lookouts. And there was a Rasta man with this amazing hair. I'm not sure how he did it, but it was actually a lot taller than it is here, but it would have been a really, really tall painting if I had painted it exactly life size, and I figured, nobody's gonna know. He had this amazing hair look to him, and I really, really wanted to paint it, so I bought a bracelet and I asked him if I could take a couple photos. I didn't have any kind of paint with me, and I basically would have had to sit there for hours and hours and hours if I was going to paint it from life that day. So I took a couple photos and brought him home and worked on this painting because I just thought he had such an interesting look.
It's up to you. And just try to be tactful about it. I lived in Albuquerque for 20 years. My name is Judith Geiser, and the first painting that I have in this particular show is called Fira, and it was done from sketches that I did while I was in Santorini, Greece in October, and I had caught the sunset of that particular scene. And I had also seen the Escher show, which was in Akron, and that inspired me to just play with buildings and various levels of buildings. So actually I ate in the restaurant right up here, but I sketched and did a preliminary small painting in oil, plein air style, right from the next balcony from this one. And so that I did have this much plotted out on a small sketch, and then this fall, or it was this fall, I decided to see what I could do with a larger impression of that scene. And I tried to get the sunset using violets up front and then ambered it off to the rear. And I also tried to do something like Escher with the staircases, but obviously I'm not Escher. The next one, I did this summer, finished it up in August while I was on Manitoulin Island in the Georgian Bay. The Ojibwe tribe had a blessing of the waters, and it was a ceremony that was most impressive for me, and so that I sketched it while they were doing the blessing, and it involved small drums and pictures of water. And what they did was, first of all, they took the water and sprinkled it on their head and then on their chest, and washed their hands with it, because water is such a sustaining, it sustains life. That's where life is. So I had drawn about 6 of the characters, and then when I tried to put a composition together at home, I centered on 3 particular actions that they had, and then they didn't have this particular kind of wear on. I decided birds also are a sign of the need for water too, so I added the bird motif on the clothing. And the third painting that I have in this show I did with the Akron Society of Artists. This was a model from Cleveland, and she did bring her pit bull with her. She posed on a couch in our 3rd floor studio, and this is 3 separate days she posed for 3 hours each day, so this is a 9-hour painting. I again worked from the figure. I did not put the couch in, but sort of softened that with the background. She did lay a figurative sheet down on the couch, but I didn't care for the figures in that, so I left it all in grays and whites. The dog was more receptive than the figure even. He curled up next to her, fell asleep, and I don't think he moved for the 3 hours that, at least for the first 3 hours that I was there, so I could actually get him in without any difficulty.
Okay, my name's Dan Linder, and this is my painting, which I call Medallion. The subject matter that I like is geometric shapes, big shapes and color, and this depiction of a train wheel as a medallion was really turned me on. So this represents my background. I'm an engineer. I work at Goodyear as an engineer, so I find that geometry really intrigues me. So this is a good representation of that sample.
Let's see. Okay, here's one. This is progress. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out butterflies out of scrap boards, and I'm going to. This is pretty cool.
Yeah,
huh?
very nice.
And I'm going to give a talk on what I do and show them how I do it, and I'll show them things in different stages of completion. And then I will have cut out a whole lot of butterflies. I'm going to draw a whole bunch of butterflies on some scrap board material. And I won't clean, the inside of these are cleaned already. This one's not cleaned on the inside. See how that is? All
So you have to
messy
scratch all
and-
that out?
Well, what I'm going to do is
Wait.
cut out a whole bunch. Do you see how messy it is inside?
Yeah.
See inside there?
Let's take a look.
Can you see in there? It's dark in there. Let's see. Let's turn the light. Yeah, get some light on the situation. Right? So what I'm going to do for that demo, it's from noon to 5. So what I'm going to do is I'll have things in different stages of completion. And I will demonstrate. I'll do what I'm going to do here. But I will also come to the event with a bunch of butterflies that I'm going to carve. I will cut out of gourds, scrap gourds I've got at home, all different thicknesses from thin to thick. And I won't clean off the inside.
What do you cut that material with?
I use Dremel tools. Like this is done with a Dremel tool.
So beautiful.
The ones in the show down there, the iris, especially the blue one, is done with a macro tool.
Very tiny cutting tip. Does it oscillate or
It's the
drill?
size of an X-Acto blade. No, it's hand done. And so I'll use that where I've got like the leaves of an iris. I've got long, curvy lines I want to do, you know. I'll use that. But I'll use a Dremel tool for sweeping larger areas. Like I've just kind of swept that open so that I could clean it out. So I cleaned it out. And then what I'm doing now is I'm completing my drawing. I've begun doing some wood burning of my line.
Oh, good.
And see, a few things are wood burned in already. And then I still have to draw the rest of it, which is what I'm going to work on here today. Actually, often I just draw it straight out with the wood burning tool. But since I'm not going to use the wood burning tool in the building here because I think that's fire hazard.
Right.
So I'll leave that for the garage at home. Anyhow, so I'm putting the design on with pencil right now, and then I go over it with my wood burning tool and burn the line in. So once I've done that, see, I've started to do a leaf up here. I've got the top corner of a leaf up here drawn already. See, I've just got part of it, like this top part of it, of a leaf. Anyhow, then I will take my Dremel tool and I'll go along close to the contours. Right up close to the contours of my subject so that the top goes with that, goes along the contour of the subject. And then I will cut out negative areas throughout the board just because I like the way light shines through them, as you see in the ones I've got on display down there. And then I color them with light fast colored pencils. These are all light fast.
What does light fast mean?
It means that they're going to stand the test of time and remain the color I put them down in.
Oh, so they won't fade.
They're not going to fade and they're not going to change. And when I'm all done coloring everything in, then I spray them with multiple coats of UV protecting and clear acrylic spray, whether it's a shiny or a matte acrylic.
Hi, my name is Ron White, and I'm a member of the ASA, Akron Society of Artists, showing here at the Summit Art Space. I was very interested in becoming a member of the group because they're an established group of artists in the community, very well respected, and it's very nice to be voted as being into their show. I've been trying for a while to assert myself in the community as a sculptor of classically trained portraiture. It worked out pretty well, but I'm realizing that with today's day and age, which is also the content of the work, documentation as we know it is becoming so easy. And everybody has a picture camera phone, right? You can take it right home to your computer, plug it in and print out. Documentation is so quick, so fast. So why was I trying to do it just in another way, three-dimensionally? So I'm finding that if I more further express some sort of personality or caricature of the person, people are much more interested. So I'm a public school teacher, and I'm noticing that kids don't even take a second to ascertain what the true situation is before they will comment right now with a text, with a blog, with a statement. A kid will be in and out of a relationship up to 2 or 3 times a day. It's kind of ludicrous, right? So I'm realizing that it's not just happening with youth, it's happening with adults too. They're not taking that that extra minute that it would normally take with a regular communication system that takes a minute or two to make that connection. So it's a distortion, right? So what I'm trying to do now with these portraits is create some kind of iconic persona within the society, like alpha male or homebody mom, you know, some kind of commonly asserted person, and then bring more of a caricature to that to make some other kind of statement.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the piece that you put into the show.
I was wondering what to name her and the other pieces. Should I name her Housewife? Should I name her Matilda? Should I name her Blog Sculpture number 6, which is what I named her? Because I've done another piece that I've named Lawyer, and his fingers are like 3 times the length, and they're all the way up his face, and he's really concerned, but he could also be an accountant. He could just be some kind of businessman. So if I'm naming it Lawyer, will that be limiting? I don't know. So I'm still kind of in the midst of how to document with name the piece. But I've named her Blog number 6. And I just think that she's pretty wonderful. And I like that the emotional content is kind of mixed. Like when you come to the piece, you don't know exactly what she's feeling. And I kind of like that.
What's the medium that you chose?
Ceramic. I'm an ice carver as well, and I do like the 2 disturbing total opposite ends of that dichotomy, because one, the ice is very fragile, very cold, very brittle in that direction, and then this has to then be very hot and very brittle in the opposite direction, and they both speak to me in huge voice. And I guess that's kind of, as a Gemini, what's in my life too, that whole dichotomy of, you know, 2 personalities.
Tell me what the piece sort of represents to you.
At first it was going to be a girl child. But again, with these newer pieces, I'm trying not to stay within that classic documentation, that it's documented, I'm just furthering the documentation into 3D and into a sculpture. So I'm trying to let the process dictate to me what it is the piece is going to become. So I'm letting more of what I am as an artist, who I am as an artist, my experiences come through into the piece. So right from when I make an armature out of newspaper, because clay needs to shrink when it starts to dry, so your armature has to be somehow malleable inside of the piece, or it has to be removed. So I use newspaper, and in the midst of that process it starts to become something, and then you start to put clay on there, and then as the clay starts to become attached in its process, it has a voice.
I see. Is play an important part of what you do?
Did you say play or clay?
Yeah, play.
Play. Now it is. For the longest time I've been looking at other artists' work that are more abstractionists, more intuitive. Their whole process is intuitive, where they'll lay a canvas down and pour paint on it and let it travel and let it move, and then they even have a hard time coming up with a name for it. They'll usually leave it untitled number 1. So I'm trying to get more of that play into my work, and I'm finding that the process, the outcome, the materials, the medium, all of that is becoming this huge play that I love. I think I'm creating more of a relationship with myself and my art now than I ever have.
I see. Okay. In your work, what gives you inspiration?
I love to do people watching. I don't know how many others love that, but like going to the mall or a city street or a gallery opening, any coffee house, any place where there's large groups of people. And I just like to watch social things occur, people's relationships with one another, with their environment, with a thing, and just watch their emotions play. And then that's what starts to give me my ideas. Like I was just at an art opening last night, and a person was a wine connoisseur, and I was watching him operate the glass and hold it up to his nose. So now I think my next piece, I have a name for it, a wine sommelier. He's gonna have this huge nose that the nostril's even gonna reach to the side to smell further down into this glass that's probably gonna be a goldfish bowl of some sort.
I look forward to seeing that one.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
Excited.
Yeah, okay. You work in different mediums of chalk or charcoal, ink, ice sculpting, clay. What is the common thread that links all of your work together?
This was a huge question in grad school too. The professors kept saying, you know, you need to choose. You need to have one or the other. You need to become. And I
Well,
kept-
I don't think I'm really asking you to choose. I'm really asking you more about what, you know, I mean, the thought process in all. I mean, you know, everybody has a style, and I mean, we see, you know, I've seen your work, and you know, there's a style to it. So what, you know, what is linking all of this together? I mean, what do you think pulls all of this into your world of art?
So I've tried not to limit my voice, my statement, my mark. And I talk a lot about, every time I make an artist statement, the artist's mark. And whenever I perceive that in that way, I need to make a mark certain times in certain ways with certain media. And I think the outcome is best stated in that mark, in that medium. So I try not to do that thing of I'm limited to one, and I can only make my mark in one. You know, for instance, I wanted to do, I was at a festival, the Mum Festival, and I wanted to do this baby holding onto a flower. Well, I thought about all the different media. Wouldn't it be great in ice? No, that would be morbid. A see-through baby holding on to a flower in ice, that just would not work, right? Now in clay, that would work really well. In a drawing, I like to do very large-scale drawings, but I don't think that it would work in that mark. It would probably have to be in clay for me. For another artist, it could probably be, you know, a painting or whatever. But with my mark, certain things head in directions towards certain media, and that's just how that is. And I'm trying to no longer, like I stated earlier, college tried to make me decide, and I'm not going to apologize or try to. I feel if I have the ability to command a material, a medium, then I should do that.
So it's really the inspiration guides the medium.
Right.